Life after Buddhism. What comes next? That's what I'm going to talk about today. I was sitting meditating this morning and I started thinking about it. Clearly it's different for different people. So my life after Buddhism isn't going to look like someone else's life after Buddhism. However, as usual, I share my thoughts in case it rings a bell with other people. I wondered, what am I left with after 20 years as a Tibetan Buddhist? It's now 2021. In 2017, I stopped being a Buddhist. Yeah, it was pretty much instantaneous when I found out what had actually been going on behind the scenes in Rigpa, when I found out the true nature of my guru, and when I found out that the people that I trusted had been covering up abuse for decades and justifying it to themselves with all kinds of beliefs, Tibetan Buddhist beliefs, which are supposedly a really important part of the religion, being that if your lama abuses you and you actually say, it is abuse, there's something wrong with you, not something wrong with the lama. That's how they think. Yeah. They think it means that you have misunderstood the teachings, because an important part of the Vajrayana aspect of Tibetan Buddhism is that your teacher can do no wrong. Except we know they can. Yeah, we do. And unfortunately, the more that teachers like Dzongsar Kyentse insist that if you see rape as rape after you have committed yourself to a Vajra master, that it is a fault in you and not in their behavior, my goodness, where is the destruction of Buddhism coming from? Not from outside, but from inside. And why are the lamas clinging to this kind of idea when it's not necessary? It could just go. They could actually have some onus on the teacher for them to behave properly, for them not to abuse their students. There could be some admission that, in actual fact, lamas are just ordinary people and they're trying to do a job of teaching the Dharma and they don't know. They can't tell. They aren't bloody well enlightened. And even if they were, they don't need to hit people. They don't need to seduce them into their bedroom. That is not the way that you teach. Well, maybe you taught Tibetans that way in decades past, but it's no longer appropriate, even if it ever once was. So that's why I left the religion. But the topic of this video is, then what? How is it 5 years down the track? Well, when I was sitting there this morning meditating, I thought, well, there you go. I can meditate. I can turn my mind in and everything can just drop away. And I can have peace any moment that I want to. Now, that's a pretty cool thing to have picked up after 20 years. And really, you would hope that after 20 years of meditation practice, you really hope that you did have that skill. And I will always appreciate the fact that it was the Tibetan Buddhist religion that gave me that skill. Or should I say that gave me the opportunity to devote myself to the practice and study of meditation such that I do have that skill. And I do admit that when I sit down and I turn my mind in and everything drops away, there is a moment where, yes, Sogyal Rinpoche goes, flash in my mind. What is that? Is that a problem? It could be for some. At a certain stage, yes, it's a problem. It stopped a lot of us from meditating there for a while. Now, for me, it's not so much a problem. It's just there. It's just like a memory. It's like, well, yeah, this guy had a role in my ability to do this. So it's natural that there's a certain memory there. But I don't dwell on it. Why would you dwell on it? If you start dwelling on it, it becomes painful. For some people, they just immediately see that as Guru Rinpoche, but, you know, Guru Rinpoche, yeah, whatever. I mean, you know, that has a whole issue around it too because of its religious connotations. In a way, at this stage, it's like I'd rather just, okay, there's a man, you know, and or I'm seeing him just as a man. No Buddha, no Guru. Just he happened to be the man that, got me into studying and practicing Buddhism such that I can do this thing called meditation. So there's that. So I'm left with my meditation. I thought, what else? And I thought, what is it that can replace a religion for people? People who need guidance, who want something in their life. And I thought, well, really it goes back to those three things that we were taught were the essence of Buddhism. And that's do no harm. Always try and do the best that you can for everyone. Do good. And watch your mind. And really, that is the key. There you have the key to ethical behaviour. In the first instance, do no harm. Now, if you take that, that's all you need. In every situation in your life, if you followed that, if you never did any harm to anyone, or at least tried to, that alone is a guiding principle in your life. So when you are tempted to seduce someone else's wife, think about it. Instead of following your lust, you think about it. Okay, I'm going to be harming people here. So maybe I'll just refrain from that. I'm sorry, darling, you're married. That's how a simple thing like that becomes an ethical guide. You don't need something that says thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's wife. And then benefit all beings. Do what you can to improve the world, to be of benefit to everyone, not just yourself. That's the essence of the Mahayana. And that's a great something to carry through your life. What a wonderful guide. It means you're not selfish. It means you try and do what will benefit the most number of people. And you don't just keep it to you and your family, and you certainly just don't keep it to yourself. Because selfishness is what has got us into this mess. Greed comes from selfishness, from I want this for me, regardless of the cost to other people. If we think about doing what is good, what will bring the most benefit for everyone, for the most people, then we follow the public health orders. It's simple. So this is a really essential teaching of Buddhism, of the Mahayana Buddhism, to do benefit for all. So what a great guiding principle. But then you go, well, those two are pretty, they're pretty sort of like outer things. What about my spirituality? So then you have the third one. Watch your mind. Now, you could call it examine your mind. But I think watching the mind for me is very simple, and I can do it at any time. Just pay attention to what's going on in your mind. If you're paying attention, you'll know when you're distracted. You'll sort of go, oh, hang on a minute. I was supposed to be washing the dishes, or I'm supposed to be working on the spreadsheet, and I've gone off somewhere. So you'll discover that simply by watching your mind. And if you take that deeply, if you take enough time to just sit and be and observe your mind and keep watching and wait and look and see, when is that next thought coming? I find just waiting for the next thought creates this gap, this space. And then you look into that space and voila. Once you can do that, once you can really turn your awareness in to examine your own mind with your own awareness, then that's all the spirituality you need. And it's also great for your mental health. And if we could really do that and do that in such a way that all our beliefs drop away, so we can see them for what they are, just beliefs and not reality itself, it should cut through all of this nonsense, all of this conspiracy theories. It should bring you right back to where you are now and to the quality of your essential mind. That's what I'm left with from Buddhism after 20 years of study. And I think that's, I think that's pretty good. Those three things to help me to live ethically, to look deeply into my own mind and have a sense of connection with everything. And if you really can, through the process of meditation, through looking at your own mind, identify your own awareness. And that really is the point, I think, of meditation, is to get to a point where it's just awareness, when your mind, your awareness is sparkling, is clear, is in all directions, is panoramic awareness, where you feel this connection with everything. What more do you need? And there's this really sharpness in your mind that, okay, Dzogchen terms, cuts through the bullshit. Now, I'm afraid people who spout conspiracy theories, they've missed that. Because when you've got that clarity of mind, you see things clearly. And of course, the danger is that we think that we are in that state, that we have this clarity of mind, when actually we're just, caught up in our, what they call ego, caught up in our own desire for fame, desire for pleasure, desire for monetary gain. Those are the things that drive the influencers who peddle conspiracy theories. And if you look at somebody's motivation for doing something, then you can be pretty suspect about what they do and why they do it. And that brings me back to lamas like Dzongsar Kyentse, who say things that are offensive, that are derogatory to their students. And you have to go, what's behind that? Oh, he thinks it's a way of teaching you, riling you up, making you see your patterns. But does he see his patterns? I don't think so. I think he loves the fame. I think he loves the notoriety. I think his motivations are not at all pure. Oh, now you can say, how can she evaluate? Well, I can evaluate because I'm a normal human being and I can see what I can see. And I know enough about the human mind to be able to see what's going on. And I just feel really sorry for his students because they are, they're stuck in a cult. I'm sorry. This is not a good thing. This kind of, honestly, maybe Vajrayana does need that, but not like that. Where is the intelligence there? Where is the real, genuine examination? How can you examine someone when you're just, Rinpoche. Yeah, I was never really keen on that bit. And yet I managed to study and practice the Vajrayana just fine. I never saw Tsogyu Rinpoche as anything other than a human being. And in the practice, it's different. It's a symbol for a clear mind. And honestly, if you are in the presence of someone who can sit in the nature of mind for a moment, you do kind of absorb it. You don't need some grand master. You just need somebody else who can actually sit in the nature of mind. I mean, look at Tsogyu Rinpoche. He was a disaster as a human being, but he could sit in the nature of mind. I mean, if he couldn't have sat in the nature of mind, nobody could have got a transmission from him, and we did. And those who say you couldn't possibly have, well, I'm sorry, you were wrong, because you weren't there. You weren't one of the students who definitely did get a transmission. And if you say that we got it wrong, that we don't know, that we're deluded, well, I'm sorry, but who are you to say that about me? What do you know about my mind? So the point of that is that if we could have got a transmission from someone as flawed as Tsogyu Rinpoche, then I suspect that someone could probably get a transmission from me when I'm sitting in the nature of mind. Why not? Isn't that how it works? It's like I smile at you, you smile back. I spread cheer by being cheerful. That's Just natural. It's how things work. So if somebody is sitting meditating and they're really in that amazingly clear state and they're mentally, they've got the sense of being connected with everybody, and you sit there and absorb that kind of atmosphere they create around them, that's it. It's all you need. Do you need devotion to this person? No. You need to be open. You need to have enough practice of meditation that you can open your mind and tune into that person. But that's all it is. That's all that's needed. And all this other stuff, that's just the bullshit. That's just designed to keep the lamas at the top of the pyramid with all the devotion and the money coming into them. It's just designed to give them all the power and to take the power away from the student. And you know, that's the opposite of what Buddhism is supposed to do. So anyway, that's why I'm not in the religion anymore, because there's this distortion there. And yeah, Buddhism is dying from within because of the behavior of the teachers, not for any other reason. And I'm afraid whatever you can say about the Western students, there are plenty of us who have a lot of intelligence. There are plenty of us who've practiced enough that you can't pull the wool over our eyes anymore. There are plenty of us who can see clearly what's bullshit. Yeah. And there's a lot of bullshit in Tibetan Buddhism, which is a pity. There's a lot of good as well. And I still think people can probably go into it, and as long as they don't get hooked up on and allow their minds to get clouded and allow their personal autonomy and power to be stripped away. But the trouble is, it's what tends to happen. You need to be a very strong person with very strong boundaries to be able to enter into the Vajrayana today with lamas like Dzongsar Kyentse and actually grow from it. The danger is that you will be diminished. The danger is that your mind will be further obscured by all the dogma, by all the devotionship. And I mean, what is devotion anyway? It's not that. It's not. And yet that's how it appears to be. So that's what people play. That's what people do because they think it's expected of them in order to get the teachings. And then these teachings are... oh dear. But Dzogchen. Now, Dzogchen, there's a lot of hope for Dzogchen. As long as you get rid of the devotion bit, because that is the problematic bit. And people will look at this and go, oh, but you can't have Dzogchen without devotion. Yeah, you can. I don't think that you need the Vajrayana for Dzogchen. I don't think that you need devotion for Dzogchen. I think that you do need good instruction, which you can get from a book, a very good book. The Mahamudra books with clear instructions are good because you can then examine, and through the examination, through questioning your own mind, you can get into that state of what's called Rigpa, or nature of mind, just from following the instructions, but really, really following them, really, really working with them. No teacher required. But then, for certainty, I think you definitely do need, so you need a teacher. Well, you do need somebody who can sit in the nature of mind, who knows quite clearly that they are in the nature of mind, which means they do have some line of transmission somewhere to somebody else who has sat in the nature of mind and who they have had this transmission, which just means that my nature of mind sparks your nature of mind, that the atmosphere I create around me when I sit in the nature of mind kind of evokes that in you, just helps you recognize that, yeah, that's it. And it's like, it really is like when I smile at you, and that brings that same in you. So it's actually really quite simple. It doesn't need to be cloaked in mysticism. So that's how I think about Buddhism now. And I guess it's what I'm left with. And in my own life, could I have come to this point without Tibetan Buddhism? I'll never know, will I? It's possible, but I think the clarities of the teachings made it easy for me in terms of, I mean, the teachings are there, and the teachings do lead to that. But if you get too close to the lamas, it can become obscured and all. I tell you what, when I see a Facebook page of a lama and there's just all these prayer emojis underneath it, oh, Rinpoche, it's so wonderful, all these comments, which are like, I cringe. I really cringe. And it's all about the lama. It's all about looking out to the lama and thinking, you know, what can I get? What's the next teaching I can get? And it's all about listening to the lama and go, oh, yes. So if the lama says go murder someone, you know, and Ocean Tongji said that. You know, if a lama, a great lama murders someone, no problem, he said. Seriously? How can you follow a religion where someone says that? Okay. I think the Dalai Lama is safe, okay? He's a gem. His teachings are so clear. His books are wonderful. He's safe. He's also human. But the point of the Buddha's teachings were to understand that you have that clarity of mind within you. You have that Buddha nature. You have that awareness. You have that as a human being. And therefore, you look inside for that. You don't look outside to somebody else to tell you things. You look inside to find your own wisdom. That's Buddhism. So whenever you're in a state where you're looking outside to some lama for the truth, somehow it's become distorted. The role of the teacher is to evoke that in you, is to empower you, is to make you stronger, to make you more self-reliant, not the other way around. Now, I remember Sogyal Rinpoche taught a bunch of Dzogchen weekends in Australia. Now, let's just put aside his disgusting behaviour when not teaching. But during those weekends, he did deliver the key points of Dzogchen. And one of the really important key points was that you must distinguish between ego and wisdom mind, between ordinary mind and wisdom mind. Because the danger of this idea that, you know, you trust yourself is that you think that your opinion is just as good as an expert's opinion. And that's not what it's all about. Not what it's all about. You must know when you're in the grip of the ordinary mind, which gets caught up in hopes and fears, desires, the things that you want, you know, money, pleasure, this kind of thing, fame, all of that. The mind that you're in when you're caught up in those things is not your wisdom mind. The mind that doesn't look at the world and see the luminosity, the spontaneous presence and the empty nature together. The mind that doesn't do that, that is your ego mind. That is your ordinary mind. That is not your wisdom mind. So don't trust it. Distinguishing between the two is vital. And so, you know, I'm saying there to anyone who has got any relationship with any kind of, you know, New Age religion, or someone who's come out of Buddhism with, you know, vague, not knowing where to go next, or not knowing what they've learned, being terribly confused about what was of value. So for me, that value is those three things. Do no harm. Do your best to help everybody and watch your mind. And in watching your mind, meditate until you discern the nature of your own awareness, until you can explode the watcher, until you recognize the part of yourself that is observing whatever it is you're focusing on in your meditation. And then taking that awareness and turning it back on itself. Taking your awareness and looking for that awareness. Where is it? You can't find it. But you have to try. You have to really look. You've got to look. You've got to turn that mind in. You've got to turn that awareness in. Look for the awareness. Now, when you really do that, when you can really do that, everything just drops, dissolves, explodes. The world looks different. And you'll lose it fairly quickly, probably. So you have to keep doing it. And the important thing in that is to recognize the difference between that mind and your deluded mind. And not to get the two mixed up. Because if you think you have wisdom, if you say, oh, well, you know, I look inside to my own wisdom, and my own wisdom says that this conspiracy theorist must be correct because, I mean, isn't it obvious that we can't trust the government and the scientists are all in the pockets of big pharma? And that is not your wisdom mind. You're caught up in your fears. You're caught up in your conceptions, in your projections of other people and their motivations. And if you allow yourself to be guided by what I feel, rather than what you know, and I don't mean know in a conceptual way, I mean know in terms of this clarity and emptiness and ability to respond, this empathy. Looking to yourself as your own wisdom doesn't mean that I think that my opinion, whatever it is as important as the opinion of, for instance, a virologist when we're talking about COVID. That is completely wrong. It's not about feelings. It's not about opinions. Following your wisdom, if you follow your wisdom, it has to be real wisdom. It can't be this idea of wisdom that makes you think that what you feel is your wisdom. What you feel, your emotions, your beliefs, they're not wisdom. Because wisdom is completely beyond all that. There's this incredible clarity that cuts through all that. And if you don't see belief for belief, then you haven't cut through. And this again is the danger of staying too long in Tibetan Buddhism. The idea of Buddhism is that you do cut through all the beliefs that you hold, all the conceptions that you hold, and you enter a non-conceptual state. But a genuine non-conceptual state understands the difference between belief and reality. The danger of staying too long in Tibetan Buddhism is you begin to think that beliefs are reality. And the point is that you should be cutting through all of those beliefs. And I think the system of devotion to the Lama, Rinpoche, I think that system, unfortunately, doesn't help because people get really attached to their beliefs, like that the Lama can do no wrong. They get so attached to that belief that they cannot then see when the Lama is actually harming someone in front of them. So that's where the religion obviously falls down. You know? And we had that in Rigpa. We had people watching someone be harmed. You know, you hit someone, they bleed. That's harm. What is so hard about that? You know? And so that brings me to Joanne Clark's latest blog post talking about nihilism. Because being able to do that, to watch someone with no empathy, to watch them being harmed and not see it as harm, that's nihilism. It's this idea, Sogyal Rinpoche used to say, emptiness cannot hurt emptiness, so what's the problem? Nihilism! Oh, what's nihilism? Nihilism is thinking that there is nothing, that nothing exists. It's thinking that because everything's empty, that you can't harm anything. And that is misunderstanding. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Form is no other than emptiness. Emptiness is no other than form. The two truths together, the conventional reality, wherein everything functions, where if you hit somebody, it hurts them. You have created harm. That functions, that exists completely at the same time. The whole reason why it exists is because of the completely open, fluid, impermanent, interdependent nature of reality. When you see somebody hitting somebody on the head and you see that as an empty action, as an action that has no inherent existence, these words are so confusing. It's no wonder people get caught up. But when you see this, I mean, the Tibetans say purely, which is another really unfortunate word. But when you see this with the understanding that form is emptiness, it doesn't mean there is no harm. It simply doesn't mean that. Because the form is emptiness, but the emptiness is also form. And we know from our world that form functions, that the conventional reality has conventions, has cause and effect that functions. So nihilism is rife in Tibetan Buddhism. How else can you interpret people being able to watch people being in tears, bleeding, people who have come away from Buddhism so damaged that they can't even do the meditation that I managed to do, that they can't have that flash of Sogyal Rinpoche in their meditation without it re-traumatizing them. If you can see that as somehow okay and say, oh yeah, but it was a teaching for them. At some point, it's clarified their karma. At some point, they're going to see that that was a teaching. I'm sorry. You have to be looking nihilistically at this. And even if you think, well, yeah, sometimes a shock does kind of wake you up. And even if you think, well, a shock does wake you up, and it does, that doesn't mean that a lama should go around giving you these shocks. And there's this whole tradition in Tibetan Buddhism about, the crazy wisdom lamas. They are supposed to be so enlightened that they know who would benefit from, slapping them on the head with a sandal. But they didn't go around doing it to everybody, because not everybody would be in a mind state where such a shock would actually help them wake up. So when you have lamas whose behavior is just bad all the time to everybody, they're clearly not that. And it's difficult these days to subscribe even to the idea that, yes, sometimes a shock can be beneficial. I think that's quite different to then thinking that all lamas are capable of ascertaining at what point and to whom such a shock might be delivered in the name of teaching. Personally, I think that should all just go. There are much better ways to teach, particularly Westerners in this day and age. And life provides the shocks. Somebody dies. You stub your toe. You don't need a lama to be giving you such shocks. It's not the role of a teacher to seduce a woman into bed with the idea that somehow or other, by having sex with the lama, they're going to progress along the path to enlightenment faster. That's just bullshit. That's just coercion. That's just sexual abuse. Because you have brainwashed is the word that comes to mind. Thought control is another word, but you've basically delivered a whole bunch of teachings that make this person think that way. Therefore, they go semi-willingly. It's like part of them doesn't really want to go and have sex with this fat old man, but they've been so trained to think, if I have sex with a lama, I'm the special dakini and all of this stuff, that they go and do it anyway. And then they're told that, if they have the awareness, if they really are this dakini, then they won't see it for what it is, sexual assault. Well, at least coercion. They're trapped. So it's just disgusting. It's completely... It's a system set up to disempower women and make them ripe for sexual exploitation. And it has to end. And since the lamas are not ending it, since lamas like Dzongsar Kyentse are perpetrating it, I suggest you don't go anywhere near them. I still think you can learn something from the lamas as you stay far away from the actual blokes. Don't get involved in the organisation. Stay on the edges, get the teachings. Sit in the atmosphere. But seriously, I wouldn't go anywhere near Dzongsar Kyentse. I'm sorry. So, no. I mean, he denigrates his own students. He's so disdainful of them. Look at Matthew Remski's blog post on Dzongsar Kyentse. He lays it all out there. It's just disgusting. How can you follow somebody like that? And not enough people challenge this. Still all this, but he's the reincarnation of... Seriously? It's superstition, a lot of this stuff. Now, I know that there'd be people still in Rigpa, if they ever watched this, they would be going, oh, Talia, it's so sad. She's so deluded. Yeah. So anyway, back to life after Buddhism. Do no harm. Do your best to help everybody and watch your mind. Watch your mind and discern the difference between your deluded mind and your genuine wisdom mind, which isn't something that is easily and immediately accessed. So when someone says something to you and you go, oh, well, I will consult my wisdom mind, and you followed what you feel, that's not it. It's not it. So how do you find it? I think looking between the thoughts. Meditating until you have gaps between your thoughts. And then looking into that gap. It's a very simple instruction. It's like a gateway. It's a gateway into the source of the thoughts, into the aliveness. Anyway, that's just me. So that's it. Life after Buddhism. That's, I think, really all I've got to say about it. I know some people are struggling. So I think it is important to bring it back to really, really simple things like this, where all of the details that are so caught up in the feudal, devotion-centered, lama-centered religion can just fall away. And just so that it's just something really simple that you can take away. And all of the other details, I think you can just leave them, just let them go. And, I didn't even need to actually sort of go, oh, what am I going to take with me? I didn't do that. I just went, that's it. I've had enough. Just dropping it all. No, this is just what remained with me naturally. I mean, I didn't have to even go looking for it. It was just this morning I thought, well, what is there? And there it was. That's what remains. So for me, that's quite valuable, and it's enough. So that's it for today. If you enjoyed this, like it. Liking it helps it to get up in the search algorithms, which means anybody looking for Tibetan Buddhism might find this and might be well warned by what I say. Bye, everyone.